Wonderful. Welcome, everyone. If you are joining, you have joined the 629 Adelaide Street West information session with the City of Toronto. We'll be starting momentarily, and I will introduce myself and my colleagues shortly. Wonderful. Okay, so we will get rolling. Hi, everyone. You've joined the 629 Adelaide Street West information session. We'll be running till 8 p.m. with a presentation first from City and the operator. My name is Violetta Ilkiu, and I am a colleague of Maria Crawfords and David Budwala. Many of you have met Maria and David through community information sessions. To host a session like this takes a little bit more facilitation, and David and Maria are definitely present and here hosting in the background. David's taking care of some of the technical bits. David and I'll call on them shortly to say hello, and Maria will be taking notes, and you'll be seeing her as a presenter later today. And I'll be moving us through the presentation portion and the Q&A section. Maria and David, do you want to say a quick hello?
Hi,
everyone. Go ahead, David.
Hi, everyone. Yes, I'll be assisting here with Violetta and everyone else in the background today.
Great. Maria?
Good evening, everyone. I'm Maria, and I'm also one of the Barnes Management Group team, and I will be assisting in the background with all kinds of notes and follow-up actions.
Fabulous. Thank you. David, next slide, please. I'd like to call on Nikisha to please read the land acknowledgement.
Thank you. We acknowledge the land we're on is a traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 signed with the Mississaugas of the Credit and the Williams Treaty signed with multiple Mississaugas and Chippewa bands.
Thank you. For those, if you have connected online but you're having trouble hearing or your connectivity is spotty, you can also dial in. You can call 587-328-1099 to connect to the session by telephone. You will have to enter an access code, and that number is 934542, followed by the pound sign or the hashtag sign. Next slide, please. This is a reminder that this meeting is being recorded. Your opinions, any statements, your voice, if you ask a question orally, will become a part of the public record. We ask that when we do open up the Q&A session that you not share any personal information about yourself, such as your name, your address, or your contact information. If there's a private matter that you wish to discuss, please contact the team at the Adelaide Gmail address, and I will read that out. 629 Adelaide ADL. My apologies. 629 ADELAIDE STW@gmail.com. Thank you. Next slide, please. In terms of accessibility, we are on the Zoom platform. If you require any accessibility related accommodation or adaptive technologies on your phone, use those. They work best. Panelists will describe the content on the slides during the presentation. The video recording of this meeting will be closed captioned when it is posted on the project website. To turn on captioning during this meeting, please click CC on your Zoom controls, which can be found at the bottom of your Zoom screen. To ask a question, click the raise hand button on your Zoom controls, or alternately, you can type your question into the Q&A box. Once we get to the Q&A section, I'll explain how that will be working. Because we have many people on the call, we need to be efficient, have as many questions answered as possible, but we also need to go over a meeting code of conduct. As both participants and panelists, we have a committee agreement that we will be respectful in words and action to all in attendance and those not in attendance. We'll be patient with the technology, share the air, listen, and when needed, ask for clarification, participate actively, speak from your own perspective. We ask that you respect personal and organizational confidentiality. And we remind you that the City of Toronto is an inclusive public organization. Any racist or other forms of prejudicial, derogatory, or discriminatory comments and questions, including any sort of name calling, will not be tolerated. If you have a tech question, you may ask this in the Q&A box and it'll be answered. We have tech support in the background that can help you with that. Because we have many people joining this evening and we wish to hear responses to as many questions as possible, we will remind you when we get to Q&A again to just please ask your questions directly so we can move on and hear as many questions as possible. Next slide, please. I would ask Rayhan to please read the African Ancestral Acknowledgement.
Thank you. The City of Toronto acknowledges all treaty people, including those who came here as settlers, as migrants, either in this generation or in generations past, and those who came here involuntarily, particularly those brought to these lands as a result of the transatlantic slave trade and slavery. We pay tribute to those ancestors of African origin and descent.
Thank you, Rayhan. All right, so we have some presenters today. As I'd mentioned at the start of this meeting, my name is Violetta Ilkew. I'm also with Barnes Management. I'm a facilitator and colleague to Maria and David, who many of you may have met in community sessions. We have some presenters from the city and from the operator, and my colleague Maria will also be presenting on the community engagement process. We'll hear from Loretta Ramadan, the Director of Infrastructure Planning and Development with Shelter Support and Housing Administration, SSHA. Kate Richardson, the Director of Homelessness Initiatives and Prevention Services from SSHA. And Enrique Kochgru, Director of Philanthropy and Communications from the St. Felix Center. Next slide, please. So our purpose and agenda for today's meeting, our purpose is to provide an overview of the shelter system at 629 Adelaide Street West, including the services and supports currently planned for this site. This is an opportunity to provide for supportive and respectful input and hear from community members, to allow community members to speak to and ask city staff questions directly, and for community members to contribute to the success of the shelter in the community. Our agenda is fairly tight and brief. We have these welcome remarks, a brief presentation on 629 Adelaide, and some background information, and then we will open up for the rest of the meeting to the Q&A and feedback. We'll wrap up about 5 minutes to the hour with some closing words and just a wrap up and further information. Next slide, please. I would ask Gord Tanner, General Manager for the Shelter Support and Housing Administration at the city, to open up his mic for some opening remarks.
Yes, thanks so much, Violetta, and good evening and welcome. And thank you for joining us tonight for this important conversation and information session. My name is Gord Tanner, and I'm the General Manager at Shelter Support and Housing. And we're the division at the city that really has the responsibility for overseeing our shelter system and the many services that we have available for people experiencing homelessness in this city. As Violetta mentioned, the meeting tonight is really an opportunity for us to share more information with you on the reality of homelessness in the city of Toronto, which is very, very challenging at the current time. It's an opportunity for us to share with you more about the program that will be coming to 629 Adelaide and the process by which city staff site and select locations to operate as shelter services. You'll hear a little bit of an overview about the services and wraparound supports that happen in shelters, as well as from St. Felix, one of our nonprofit partners. And finally, a little bit more about our engagement process. I want to let you know that this is part of a process. This process does not end with this information session. In any community that we locate services in, we are committed to working with both the operators, the people that use those services, but also with local neighbors, community, and residents to ensure that programs like this are a success where they're located. And so I look forward to more conversations after the information session tonight, and in advance of the program opening in the spring of next year. So I'll stop there. I'd like to recognize Deputy Mayor Asma Malik, who is here, and maybe ask you, Deputy Mayor, just for a few comments yourself. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Gord. Thank you to Violetta for taking us through the meeting this evening, and thank you for the opportunity to say a few words. I just want to start by welcoming everyone into this space tonight. As was mentioned, my name is Asma Malik. My pronouns are she, her. I'm very proud to be Deputy Mayor and City Councillor for Spadina, Fort York, Ward 10. And I want to begin with a very sincere gratitude for everyone who's in attendance tonight. Thank you for your interest, for your care, for your concern for the local community and for these services in it. As well as that, I want to thank city staff and the team from St. Felix, the local operator for this site, to be on the call as well, and for the preparation in being able to bring this information to the community. Tonight, they will be providing valuable information on the site at 629 Adelaide, the engagement that we've seen and heard until this point, how that has been responded to, and what we can expect moving forward. And I really want to echo Gord's words that this is part of an ongoing process, engagement, a relationship with the community. This is just one important piece of that. Many of you have been in touch with my office over the last several weeks, and I want to reiterate now what I've shared with you in those engagements and those communications. And it's that as a neighbor, as a former school board trustee, as a local representative, I am deeply committed to the well-being of our neighborhood and working together for that well-being to make sure that we have a great neighborhood, an excellent learning environment, and a place where we can all thrive in this city. Our community safety and our community well-being is a priority for me and my team. And I've been in ongoing touch with residents to connect with city staff, with the operator, with the community engagement team to ensure that the questions, concerns, and priorities that were raised are being heard and responded to. And I've shared this before as well. The concerns and questions that have been raised are very understandable. And the feedback is being taken seriously and has informed some of the important updates that we've been sharing over the past week and the plans that you'll see in front of you for this particular site. As Gord mentioned, we are in a housing crisis in the city. No one needs to tell you that twice. We also know that approximately 10,000 residents in our city are actually facing homelessness. And right now, almost 300 people each night cannot access safe indoor space in our city. And as a city, we have a collective responsibility, and myself as a city councillor with my colleagues, to fight for permanent, dignified, and long-term affordable housing. And I will continue to advocate that with you and at City Hall and to every other level of government. And this requires a partnership, real financial support with our federal and provincial partners to come to the table. And in the meantime, we will figure out ways to make sure that all of our neighbors are safe and that we do have safe indoor spaces when they're needed. My goal is to ensure the successful placement and integration of this site and sites like this in every part of our city, and to work collaboratively on an ongoing basis with our local community, with our neighbors, to do this well. Thank you so much again for being here, and I'll pass things back to Violetta now.
Thank you so much, Deputy Mayor Malik. I would like to invite Loretta Ramadan, Director of Infrastructure Planning and Development, to provide an overview of the SSHA system. Loretta?
Thanks, Violetta. My name's Loretta Rambadan. I want to thank you for taking the time this evening to join us and to hear more about this site. I'd like to take some time to provide an overview of the City of Toronto shelter system. The slide on screen provides an example of what a space in a shelter might look like in terms of the beds provided and storage space for clients. We currently operate the largest shelter system in the country. As of November 2023, the city is sheltering approximately 11,000 people each night. This includes approximately 9,500 people accessing overnight emergency shelters, as well as 1,500 people sheltered through bridging hotels and programs supported by the Canadian Red Cross. While housing is the ultimate solution to homelessness, shelters are necessary to fill the gap when people are in an immediate housing crisis. Despite the large number of clients supported through the city shelter system, the need for emergency shelter has significantly increased over the past 2 years. This is due to many factors, including insufficient affordable housing supply, increased costs of living and inflation, inadequate wage and income supports, and an increase in refugee claimants arriving in Toronto now that border restrictions have eased. Despite the system growing significantly, in the last 2 years, serving 3,000 more people a night than in the spring of 2021, the system is at capacity and we are turning away hundreds of people each night. We do expect demand to continue to rise during the cold winter months. This current slide shows how programs are located within communities across the city. Providing shelter for people who are experiencing homelessness is one of those programs that is an important community service that is offered across the city. Shelter Support and Housing Administration is the division in the city that manages the emergency shelter system. We provide overnight services in 97 locations across the city of Toronto, which are operated by 35 organizations. This includes city-run programs. Our knowledge, expertise, and responsibility is focused on 3 outcomes. 1, to provide people experiencing homelessness in Toronto access to safe, high-quality shelter space. 2, to provide housing-focused supports that ensure homelessness is rare, brief, and non-reoccurrent. And 3, to connect low-income households with access to housing benefit programs that provide affordability and stability. As you can see from this slide, sites are located within communities, which means that they are often located near other community services like childcare centers, schools, and parks. Shelters are located within communities not only because it's important for people staying at these locations to be connected to the community they may have always lived in, but shelters are also only permitted in areas that are zoned for shelter use, which are commonly residential or mixed commercial residential use. We can't open shelters in areas zoned as employment or industrial. Next slide, please. To give a bit of a description of other city services we offer, this slide gives an example of, shows an image of one of our street outreach workers providing some support. In addition to shelters, the city offers other services to those experiencing homelessness, such as respites, drop-in programs, and winter spaces. The city also includes services such as street outreach, which involves streets to home staff connecting with individuals who may be living outside that might not wish to stay in a shelter. And they connect to build trusting relationships in order to help address immediate health and safety needs and to help them to find permanent housing. We also offer housing help services through nonprofit agencies that help people find and keep housing to avoid eviction. Housing help services are available in most shelters as well as many drop-in centers. Additionally, we offer pet services for pets of people staying at shelter sites. The city also operates public washrooms and showers, including some that have been winterized and are open year-round. Drop-ins provide a range of services that may include food, healthcare, showers, laundry, information and referrals, and social and recreational activities to people who are homeless or at risk of homelessness. Information on services for those experiencing homelessness, including warming centers, can be found on the city's website at www.toronto.ca/homelesshelp. Next slide, please. A common question we are asked is about shelter location criteria and how the city makes decisions about the sites that are selected as a new shelter. Shelters are one of many municipal services that the city provides. Like daycares, libraries, and community centers, shelters must be available in neighborhoods across Toronto. When searching for a new shelter location, city staff will seek buildings that are available, affordable, of a suitable size, and close to transit and services. City Council adopted a report that authorized staff to enter into new or amend existing agreements to maintain or add new respite or shelter beds as may be necessary. This step was taken to allow the city to open or relocate shelter programs quickly in order to respond to shelter system pressures and ensure the city can provide critical shelter and support services to as many people as possible. As such, the city staff have delegated authority to site new shelters in locations that meet zoning and bylaw requirements. And we work to secure sites prior to engaging with the community. Once a site has been confirmed and secured, city staff work closely with the community, along with the operator and counselor's office as part of a collaborative engagement process to ensure the site is successful in the community. Next slide, please. So with 629 Adelaide Street, some of this slide will sort of demonstrate some of the search criteria. Because the need for shelter space is urgent and demand is currently far greater than the current system can accommodate, it was necessary to find a relocation space for 629 Adelaide, for St. Felix previous site, which was located at 25 Augusta. That site is being converted into housing as part of the Rapid Housing Initiative, and we needed to relocate that program. The site that St. Felix and the city looked for, requirements included being turnkey and ready for operations with minimal retrofits being required, being in close proximity to 25 Augusta as a relocation of the program, and being close to transit and accessible. Any potential properties identified for use were assessed by an interdivisional team in consideration of program needs. This location at 629 Adelaide was cited in collaboration between the city and St. Felix Center. 629 Adelaide Street was chosen as a shelter site as it met all necessary requirements and is permitted for shelter use to provide temporary accommodations and related support services that assist people to move into housing. 629 Adelaide Street West is zoned for a municipal shelter, and it is a permitted use here. And I will hand it over to Kate Richardson. Thanks.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Kate Richardson, and I'm the Director of Homelessness Initiatives and Prevention Services with Shelter Support and Housing Administration. I'd like to join my colleagues also this evening in welcoming you to tonight's session and providing some information specifically to the site at 629 Adelaide Street West. Next slide, please. So as you've heard this evening, our shelter system is full and there is great amount of strain on the existing system, and we continue to see unprecedented unprecedented pressures on the system itself. 629 Adelaide Street West will play a very important role in addressing some of these pressures and helping people get access to safe indoor space and case management supports. This site is a relocation from St. Felix's site at 25 Augusta. You've heard that already this evening, which is approximately 750 meters away. That site closed on July of 2023 and has now been converted into new affordable housing for women and women with children of approximately 31 units. While 629 Street Adelaide West was originally envisioned to serve as a 24-hour respite site, it's now going to open as a shelter for single adults of all genders. A variety of factors influence that decision and the change in the service model, including community feedback, available budget, and the further assessment of the layout and square footage of the space. The shelter site itself is scheduled to open in early spring of 2024 and is intended to operate for the long term at 10 years. The site, as mentioned earlier, will be about approximately 50 beds. Next slide, please. The building itself is approximately 16,000 square feet with lots of programming space and opportunities to provide resting and recovery space for mental and physical wellness and programming. As a shelter, the site will have mandatory intake triage processes and provide comprehensive case management and housing supports for all clients, with a focus on helping them secure permanent housing as quickly as possible. Shelters also provide wraparound supports and space for recreation and programming, crisis management, housing, and income and employment supports. There's also an expectation that our clients will participate in the case management program and the creation of a housing plan. I will now turn it over to Enrique Koshkruj from St. Felix to talk about programming at 629 Adelaide.
Enrique, if you could just unmute yourself.
Sorry, yes. Hi, everyone. Good night. I just want to introduce a little bit about St. Felix Center, who we are, since we're going to be neighbors in this area. So St. Felix Center is a registered charity. We've been participating with the city in different services and programs oriented towards providing supports to people experiencing homelessness in downtown Toronto. St. Felix Center has been, as St. Felix Center, operating and supporting marginalized communities since 1993. However, we've been in the community around and close to 629 Adelaide Street West through the Felician Sisters, who are the original founders of St. Felix Center since 1938. So we are very well known in that area, and we know different organizations and people. We actually have a really strong relationship with St. Mary's for many, many years when we had our after-school program and math tutoring classes at 25 Augusta. So definitely we have a special relationship with all the people living in that close proximity. As part of our programs, we provide different services, but mainly we provide housing. Most recently, we're providing housing now, transitional housing for women, respite programming, and wrap-around supports to, again, support those who are experiencing mainly homelessness, but other different challenges stemming from poverty. Can we move to the next slide, please? So the program has obviously different goals, but the main idea is to provide a safe space and stabilizing supports for people who are currently experiencing homelessness, right, that living outside. We obviously, as part of this, we try to finding and not only help them to find, but also to maintain permanent housing, which is obviously the most important part of getting someone with a place that they can call home. We also, as part of our programs, build different, try to help people to build different life skills and mental wellness. So we have different activities throughout the day on a very regular basis that we hope support people in achieving those goals. We also focus a lot in building a strong sense of community right? Building meaningful relationship with the people that are accessing our services, but also with those that are part of our community. By the way, when you hear me say or read through the presentation the word guests, that's the word that we use to call people accessing our services. We don't call them clients. The word guest is extremely important for St. Felix Center. As part of building those strong relationships, we also create programming opportunities to engage with both the surrounding community and shelter residents together, right? The idea is to bring people together, connect people, really help them to see each other and understand their circumstances and shine as a community as a whole. Now, as part of this effort, or to achieve that, we will have a community liaison person who will be part of our intensive community engagement team. And part of their role is to connect and build rapport, right? And help provide engagement opportunities to residents and community members. Can we pass to the next slide, please? At this location, as was mentioned before, we will be providing services to single adults of all genders. I really want to mention that people staying at these locations are equal citizens for beautiful Toronto and have the same rights, freedoms, and responsibilities as any other residents of the city. We do have a conduct expectation and rules, and anyone accessing the services must follow those rules and guidelines. And we host regular meetings with our guests to make sure that they are informed, aware of those expectations, and the potential consequences, obviously, of not following those guidelines. If for some reason someone is not able to adhere to those expectations, there are several actions that we take in order to address those situations. But the main idea is to communicate with them, let them know, what was the part that they were not following, and they know, as I mentioned before, that there could be potential consequences to their actions, depending what those actions are. And those consequences could be or include the possibility of discharge. Now, very important, when someone is discharged from the program, we don't just put them outside on the street, right? And they just leave them there without any type of supports. They are always given a referral to another appropriate shelter program if available. And again, we engage with them in a way to make sure that they don't, they're missing supports that they may need at that particular moment. Can we move to the next slide, please? Thank you. Now, obviously, we take community safety and outreach connections with our communities very seriously. And we will be implementing a different measures, right, to make sure that we grow together and build together a community that is thriving for everyone, including our guests. The site will be staffed 24/7 with individuals who are social workers, social services workers, people with lived experiences, and all of them are trained in providing case management for housing and supports mental health, harm reduction services, de-escalation, conflict resolution, crisis prevention, and intervention management. There will be on-site primary health care services. It will also be available on-site other supports like mental health resources and supports. An important part is that we'll have 2 community safety teams for 24/7 monitoring the area around the property. All those team members are trained to respond to immediate non-police or non-emergency related matters. Teams will also be monitoring all the hotspots that may be identified by the community together. Security surveillance cameras are being also installed and monitored. And one important thing is that there will be fencing for our guests to provide some privacy and recreational spaces for them. This will be in the north side of the building, and St. Felix Center is currently working with their consultants to develop the plans around these opportunities for our guests. Thank you.
Thank you, Enrique. I'd like to call on Maria Crawford to provide just an overview and a summary of the community engagement. at the site. Maria?
Thank you. As you've heard earlier from the previous presenters, the city and St. Felix are committed to working with neighbors and the community to support the success of the shelter in the community. We, myself, and my colleagues at Barnes Management Group have been brought in as community engagement facilitators. And in that role, we have been hosting and meeting with a wide range of key stakeholders in the community. We've been tracking and responding to community concerns. We're hosting a community information session, which is the session that we're in right now tonight. And we'll also be working to establish a community liaison committee, and we'll be working on setting that up within the next couple of months. We also have a dedicated email address where you can reach us at any time, or if you have questions, you can reach us at 629 Adelaide Street West at gmail.com. Thank you. Turn it back to you, Violetta.
Thank you so much. So now we're entering our question and answer period. And I see during the presentations that questions are coming in through the Q&A. You also have the opportunity to put your hand up if you want to speak a question. So we're just going to go through some of the process here before I open it up and we start to answer some of the questions. We have just a little over 45 minutes, about 50 minutes for this portion. We'll do our best to answer as many questions as possible during this session. Staff are monitoring the Q&A to make sure the most common issues are addressed in tonight's meeting. We'll try to answer all the questions posed in the allotted time, but there may be more questions than time. So please reach out to the email at 629 Adelaide Street West at gmail.com if your question was not answered. We remind you once again that the session is being recorded. So we ask that you not identify yourself by your full name, do not provide your address or other identifying information, as this video is in the public record and will be posted on the project website. And we'll also remind you that the City of Toronto is an inclusive public organization. And once again, any racist or other forms of prejudicial, derogatory, or discriminatory comments and questions, including name calling, will not be tolerated. I'd like to just mention that in addition to our panelists, some of whom you've heard, we are also joined by additional City and St. Felix staff, and we've also been joined by Toronto Police Services from Division 14. And I will be toggling between hands up, questions in the Q&A box, and questions that we've received via email just prior to the session. So I'll be going from one to the other just to make sure we're covering all the different ways people have asked questions. People are already doing this and using the Zoom really well. It's fairly easy to use, but again, you can type your question into the Q&A box on the Zoom control panel at the bottom. The questions are put into a queue. You can raise your hand to verbally ask your question, and what I will do is I will call on you, whether there's a letter or a name beside. I'll say I'm calling on you, and I'll unmute you to ask your question. I ask, just for the brevity and to be efficient for time and to make sure as many questions are answered as possible, that you state your question very clearly and succinctly. And once you're finished, I will mute you again because it's hard to hear when a number of lines are unmuted at the same time. If you have called in, you can raise your hand by dialing *9 to raise your hand. And when you've finished asking your question, *9 to lower your hand. Okay, so I have a question that popped up right from the beginning after Gord had some opening remarks. And so I'm just going to start there from the top. It says, Gord Tanner mentioned that he wants to ensure this is a success. Gord, how would you define this success? So we'll have you start there, Gord.
Yeah, thanks so much. It's a great question. And so, you know, a successful program is one that integrates well within a community and is just another community service that exists in the span of any neighborhood. Success is when we have a program where individuals can come and seek out support to move into housing and move out of homelessness. and receive the supports they need to be successful, whether that's healthcare or mental health supports, but housing really is the focus of most of the interactions that we are focused on in the shelter system. So success is really looking at a program like a shelter as a community asset and as a place that people are happy to see as part of the fabric of a neighborhood, and a place where people can also get involved, local residents and others, to understand what happens there and can support the operations, in this case of St. Felix, and the guests that will be staying there.
Great, thank you, Gord. I'm going to go to a hand up here, Kevin Wong. Kevin, can I ask you, David, if you can unmute Kevin Wong? There we go.
Hi, my name is Kevin Vaughn. I'm the local member of parliament. I have two questions, both related to safety. The first directed, I think, either St. Felix or City of Toronto. Obviously, between this session and the previous one, we've heard reassurances articulated about the alleged safety precautions, which are all well and good, but I think if you speak to our neighbors in Liberty Village, I think the track record, unfortunately, of St. Felix's ability to address local safety concerns has been mixed. My question is, what concrete steps will be taken to learn from those failures to keep this community safe? I know security cameras were mentioned, but those are not preventative, they're reactive. And unfortunately, current environment means that perpetrators won't necessarily remain in custody. So the second question, I think, is best suited for a city councillor. Related to that, it's no secret that Toronto police resources are overstretched. The neighborhood community officers that cover both the Niagara and King West community already have 5 shelters within their catchment that stretches beyond just this concerned community. Can the community count on the city councillor to advocate for the funding of additional dedicated police resources if that's what the community asks for? Because unlike cameras, one of the things around crime prevention is deterrence through visibility of Toronto police. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kevin. Okay, so there are a number of security and safety questions here. Monica, would you like to start first, and then we'll see if Enrique has anything to add, and we'll flip it over to TPS as well.
Sure, absolutely. And thank you for the questions. In terms of safety, some of the things that we have talked about, of course, is the community safety team that will be in the neighborhood on a 24/7 basis. We are also connecting with the existing community safety team that is hired by Parkdale Queen West Community Health Center to have a coordinated approach. We have already met with 14 Division, and I know you asked some further questions in regards to those resources. And we do intend to have ongoing meetings. And I believe St. Felix has also met with the community neighborhood officers in that catchment area and have a long-standing positive relationship with the community police officers from the Kensington Market area, who they work quite closely with when 25 Augusta was previously open. We have also listened to feedback, and we are investing a further position called a community liaison worker position, who will be doing the day-to-day liaising with local businesses, residents associations, will feed into the community liaison committee and be a touchstone for emerging issues in the community. We anticipate that there will be flexibility with the community safety teams to be able to identify hotspots and to be able to move about according to where there might be needs. Additionally, we work closely with Streets to Homes and the encampment office. We've got John Francisco on the call, and the encampment office has worked very closely with St. Felix at their other respite program, because we understand that that is a common area or green space where encampments happen to pop up. So we really are looking at all of our resources in the community, including parks, recreation, and forestry, including municipal licensing for anything going on private property, transportation services, if there are concerns on the public right of way. and it's really an interdivisional approach to the work. So it's not like a one-stop solution. We have also been working with St. Felix to really do an audit of the outside of the building. Enrique had mentioned about putting up the fence and having a designated outdoor area. And we have definitely flagged there, there obviously is a pretty intricate laneway system in the area, particular the laneway behind the building. I think we'll be looking at how to animate that area so that it does not become a hot spot.
Thank you, Monica. Suhal, I'll call on you to unmute next.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that the issue of safety is not only related to the homelessness or our shelter clients. It's a bigger issue throughout the city of Toronto that we are working closely with many stakeholders on. SHA is just one stakeholder in that conversation. We work with our colleagues in SDFA about improving non-police responses to community crisis issues. We're also working closely with our colleagues in police who make determination on how to maximize resources for police across the city based on where they're seeing issues. I don't think it's as direct as saying that community has raised concern. That means we have to get additional resources in certain areas. We will be monitoring and evaluating and looking at data shared from the police as well as our colleagues across the city to see how best to respond to these issues. I can pass over to our colleagues in TPS to respond to how they resource these types of.
Okay, thank you, Suhal. I'm going to move on to another question. There are a couple that have come through. This one came through earlier prior to the session. So we're just trying to get through. There are many, many questions coming in. Thank you. We have almost 96 people on the call. So almost 100, I was going to say. So exactly 96. Monica, this one is for you once again. What harm reduction measures will the shelter provide for guests? If you can outline the harm reduction.
Sure. So as part of Shelter Support and Housing Administration's approach to provision of shelter, we have a 10-point harm reduction plan, and that is across every shelter and respite program run throughout the city of Toronto. So all programs are required to have a harm reduction component unless they are an abstinence-based specific program. So with this, and St. Felix can certainly elaborate, all programs have both distribution and administration capabilities for naloxone in case of overdose, ongoing counseling, building rapport, access to harm reduction supplies, information on where to get support, information on how to use safely, and really as well tying in with primary care with doctors who also have a background in harm reduction knowledge to be able to continue that work from both a healthcare, mental health, and a holistic approach to working with folks. So we really work with people where they're at in trying to build trust and open doors so they can work on a variety of goals with us.
Thank you, Monica. I'm just going to go to a hand up. Jennifer Hilson. David, if you can unmute Jennifer. Jennifer, you can unmute yourself. Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so a small group of us walked around a petition which shows approximately 98% of the participants that we asked in a walkable location surrounding 629 Adelaide Street strongly oppose having a homeless shelter at that location in a residential cul-de-sac steps away from an elementary school. It's been obvious from previous engagements that Barnes management sides with having a shelter placed at 629. I'd just like to know, when will it be our turn to really engage in a fair and transparent process that is equal on both sides? To log in to multiple sessions and spend hours at a time to maybe get one question in is not community engagement. We want to be heard, not just listened to. When will, we will continue to fight. Like this, it's going to be 10 years of fighting. We will continue to fight every step of the way. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm hearing some opposition to the shelter, but also questions about continued engagement at the shelter site. I see you nodding, Monica. Do you want to tackle that as a start? Suhal?
You want to take
Yeah.
it, Suhal?
Sure. Like I think our commitment is to continue to engage with the community on a number of items to ensure the success of the sites. If the petition and the community decision is to talk about the location or relocating shelter services, that's not a conversation we really can have. The reality is that the majority of communities where we place shelters have schools or daycares or other services nearby, and many people oppose us shelter. Ultimately, we don't make a decision on whether or not the immediate neighbors agree with the decision. We have to make a decision based on citywide needs, and the decision as delegated from council is that city staff should look at properties that meet the zoning bylaws and move forward through delegated authority to cite those sites and really work with the community to make them successful. And we have had many challenging engagements in the past where we faced opposition, but over time through ongoing work and effort in engaging communities through small meeting dialogue with many representatives from the community, we were able to achieve significant changes in the community. Many of our initial CLCs formed to really address concerns or complaints became embrace communities where the people were focused on volunteerism and supporting the shelter and running programs on the site. And we want to see the similar type of transformation through our engagement at this site.
Yeah, thank you, Sahal. I'm going to question in the Q&A. This is going back to your presentation, Loretta. There was a photo, a map of Toronto shown, and it shows, the question is, why are the existing shelters so highly condensed in the downtown area? Loretta?
Yeah, so I would say traditionally, going back, 10, 20 years, 30 years even, many services were located in the core of the city, and that led to the creation of most shelter programs being located in the core of the city and in the downtown location. This site being a relocation program, it was important to maintain the services for the individuals that use the services at 25 Augusta. However, having said that, as a shift in policy for new shelters being created, one of the goals we are seeking to achieve is to ensure new shelter spaces are created across the city of Toronto in communities that may not have them right now, because homelessness is everywhere. It is across the city. It is apparent across the city. And we want to make sure those services are available to all who need them.
Thanks, Loretta. I have another question that's popped up before I move back to the hands raised. This question, I think, is directed for you, Suhal. How will the center liaise with local elementary schools? So proximity to the schools, and how is that being?
We have already begun regular meetings with the local principals and school representatives. We are trying to work with them on a comprehensive safety plan that includes a number of different organizations, we being one of them. The schools have identified they have been experiencing some challenging issues, and I think safety is important for every community resident, especially children. So we are working closely with them to ensure wherever SHA and St. Felix can participate in that conversation, that we do participate in that. And we will be having ongoing meetings with them into the future.
Great, thank you, Suhal. I'm going to call on Jill with your hand up. David, if you can help unmute Jill. And once you're unmuted, go ahead.
Yeah, I've unmuted.
Yeah,
can you hear me? Yes.
Yes.
I put the questions up. My main one is for Enrique. I'm sorry, I don't have your last name. I call you Mr. So Enrique, I hope I can call you by your first name. It's about, again, the harm reduction. I specifically want to get at this idea of why harm reduction has to go hand in hand with shelter services. Why cannot we reasonably talk about 629 Adelaide Street West as being a shelter only and have harm reduction being offered through the safe injection site that is located 200 meters north? This would protect the community from drug use in Portugal Square. I think the elephant in the room here is drug use, and we're terrified of it. So I would just like to talk about that, be very specific. Why does harm reduction services, why do you have to distribute needles and pipes to your guests? Can it not be done some other way to protect the community? Because what you're doing is you're encouraging drug use in Portugal Square. We all know that's going to happen. It happened at 25 Augusta, and it will happen here.
Thank you, Jill. Monica, as you're unmuted, do you want to go first as you handle the harm reduction?
Sure. So harm reduction does not mean like a safe injection site, just to clarify that those are different things. A safe injection site comes about through an application to the federal government to get an exemption, and then typically are funded through the province of Ontario. So that is its own entity, but we do provide harm reduction supports, including distribution of supplies. And I think there is no evidence-based research to say access to supplies translates into increase in drug use, just as, you know, condom distribution does not mean an increase in sexual activities. So I think there has been lots of research on this, but it actually is an engagement tool to be able to start talking with people about what's really going on in their lives. As well, unfortunately, we have lost a lot of people through preventative overdoses throughout the shelter system. We know that there is an opioid crisis for a number of years now in the city, and I think folks experiencing homelessness are some of the folks who have been hit the hardest by this. So we want to do whatever we can to save people's lives and to, again, look at those opportunities to see how we can engage and get supports. Certainly when it comes to actual use, we want, and we know that St. Felix will have a robust partnership with Parkdale Queen West to look at how they can work together. But in terms of the shelter system as it stands right now, all shelters, whether abstinence-based or not, do have naloxone, because that is really about saving lives. And again, St. Felix has a lot of experience in harm reduction and a lot of great experience in building rapport with some folks that are really entrenched in homelessness and have not been able to previously make connections. So again, it's not even a St. Felix thing, it's an SSHA City of Toronto commitment to harm reduction.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, if I just want to add one thing, I mean, I think that Monica said it all. I don't want to like go again over all those things that are really important. I just want to mention that harm reduction goes way beyond just providing needles or anything like that. I think one of, at least the way that we see it as well, is building those relationships with the guests and then having those important conversations with them. And we do that through some of the things that Monica already mentioned, right? Having those partnerships with people that are very well informed and trained in how to conduct those conversations to really give people options, right? And meet them where they're at. And we will definitely, I guess that was part of the question about the health center that is close by. That's definitely the intention, to work very closely with them. And just to confirm, I think that Monica also mentioned it, we won't have a safe injection site in the property, right? That's not our intention at all. So that's all I wanted to add. Thank you for the question.
Thanks, Enrique. Enrique, I'm going to pop over to another question that I think is directed to you. Will there be any volunteer opportunities at the proposed shelter for community members wishing to help residents?
Sure, absolutely. We always encourage members of the community to engage with us. So I guess as we start the program and see what the needs of the program are, we will definitely open those options for all community members. And in the past, we have received on all our sites from like big, large corporate groups to even families with children, or even like we had an opportunity when a child from the community, what they did is they, especially around this same time of the year, I guess they gave them some money for, you know, the holidays, and rather than buying, I guess, some expensive toy, what they did is they used that money for putting some care kits for our guests, and they put it together at home. And then he asked if he could come to the center to give them out directly to the guests. And of course, we were there to support through the whole experience. just to give you an idea of some of the things that we do. But for sure, there will be options for community members to decide what kind of a volunteer opportunity fits the best for them. Thank you for that. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Enrique. Because there's a safety issue as well in the community that they're concerned about, does anyone from TPS have anything to add? And Jeffrey, Matthew, or Justin on the line, if one of you'd like to unmute yourself, if you have anything to add. From Division 14. Hi, Justin. Go ahead.
Hey, everybody. Sorry about that. Yeah, I guess the one thing when it comes to safety, the Toronto Police are about everybody. It's all about community in relation to us, whether it's dealing with the neighbors, whether it's dealing with our service providers, or whether it's dealing with our clients. That's I think the one thing positive about seeing in a community meeting such as this is that everybody's together, everybody's talking. And I think that's the only way we're going to come to these solutions. For safety, I guess if everything comes to when our community safety team has an issue, they call us. If our service providers, such as Enrique and St. Felix, have an issue, they call us. There's this collective group of working together seems to be the most important thing and seems to be the most successful. For Matt and I, who have been the neighborhood officers over in Liberty Village for the last 4 years, working with St. Felix at the 69th site, we did see an extreme change in when the site comes and originally started to developing a relationship and now to the working relationship that we have. And I guess the way to quickly sum it up and not take too much time is working together. We've accomplished a lot more rather than kind of pulling away and staying to our own nieces. Everyone in this group has something that they bring to the table. And I think it's kind of pooling it together is how we solve these issues and grow and understand each other. The other part, what I'd say would be it's education. Just by talking to each other and understanding what each other does, we seem to accomplish a lot more. Don't know if that hit your question, but definitely redirect it to me, sorry.
I think you're on mute, Violetta.
My apologies. I'm popping to another question. Is there a plan to have programming every day? We're seeing a lot of people in the neighborhood with no place to be during the day because of fewer drop-in programs.
Enrique, do you want to take this or you want me to?
No, sure, I can mention that for sure. So we will engage not only in things that we think could be important for our guests, but we have a very strong communication with them as well to actually find out what kind of activities are something that they may be interested in. And we obviously channel resources towards trying to accommodate those activities inside of our site. So absolutely, the idea is that people have different opportunities, right, to engage with staff and also create that sense of community inside of the center. So yes, we will have programming all the time on a regular basis.
Great, thank you, Enrique. I'm going to go to one of the hands up. I see a name, Jimmy. David, if you can help unmute Jimmy. Jimmy, go ahead. You can unmute yourself and speak.
Hi, can you all hear me?
Yes. Go ahead, Jimmy.
Great. So I'd just like to thank everyone for organizing this. I do appreciate the need for homeless shelters. However, I just don't think it's justifiable to open a respite center in the middle of a residential neighborhood. And the main obvious concern, as mentioned before, is safety. And aside from the fact that we have families living around this building, we have 2 public schools that are so close in proximity as well, one being St. Mary's Catholic School and Niagara Public School. I've volunteered at St. Felix before back in 2016, and I can tell you firsthand the behavior of these individuals who take advantage of these facilities. They can get problematic and felt at times my safety was in jeopardy. They can spontaneously erupt and there's no telling what they will do. The center could have all the 24/7 surveillance and trained staff to handle such events, but there is no way they will be able to monitor the entire neighborhood. And besides, when I volunteered there was no such thing as a trained staff. It was just the coordinator and other normal citizen volunteers. So my question is, has the faculty of the City of Toronto reached out to the actual community of residents before having this location to be the respite location? And unfortunately, to say that this location meets your ideals and not minding the opinions of the 98% of those who live around the area who oppose this is unacceptable.
Thanks, Jimmy. Suhal, can I call on you first?
Sure. As Loretta shared, first to clarify, the site is going to be a shelter. We made that decision based on the feedback we received, as well as looking at the programming space, as well as the budget for the site. So you will be opening as a 50-bed shelter and not a 24-hour respite. Second, as Loretta shared in her slide earlier, the vast majority of our space, almost all of the sites, are close to schools, community centers, daycares. Some of them are attached to daycares, and many of them we don't get any complaints or issues. I think reality is homelessness is a very complex issue, and there are incidents and there are complexities, and that's what we're trying to understand and figure out how best to address. We have a lot of experience in learning over the last a few years where these issues has really increased in the shelter system in terms of the number of people we're serving and the number of new sites we had to open. So we had a lot of experience integrating new shelters to new neighborhoods, which we hope to implement here. I think just the conversation around location, we have gone back to council many, many times around the ask around, do we have the authority to respond to urgent needs and open respites and shelters as required to meet the demand for homelessness? And council has reiterated, yes, that's what they want us to do. We reiterated the last couple of weeks on November 8th, we had a report go to council with the same recommendation, and council again approved this and gave us direction to move forward in that way. And we as city staff are obligated to follow the direction of city council to move forward and try to respond to this crisis. We have a lot of people experiencing homelessness in the city of Toronto, and there is a need to make urgent decisions to quickly and rapidly open up more services to address these issues.
Thank you, Suhal. I think this question is related. That's come in the Q&A. The original plan was to be 60 to 80 beds. Now we have, the site is reduced to 50 beds to begin with. What is the maximum beds you had planned to have? In addition to that question that has come up is what happens to overflow when the shelter is full? Monica?
Thank you. So we are opening as a 50-bed program, and that is our expectation in terms of the capacity. One of the positive things that has come out of that is that it also makes for, back to talking about programming, lots more opportunities within the facility to look at engagement and different programs and resources available for folks. And sorry, can you repeat the second question?
What happens when the shelter is full?
Right. So in the design plans for 629 Adelaide, St. Felix had the foresight to, be proactive about that. And with their design plans, they are looking at having a larger than average reception area where instead of having, if it were to happen, that there are folks coming to the door, they could be invited inside and triage there, and the staff on site could support them with the shelter referral elsewhere. So we really, St. Felix is really being thoughtful about the flow of traffic and how to support that overflow so it's not out front.
Just before you go, I know this question comes later on, but it's a point of clarity. It's a question to explain what is the difference between a respite center and a shelter per se, and so what does the changeover mean?
Sure. So there's a number of changes. So for one, respite programs typically have cots, whereas this program is going to have beds. It makes it easier from an accessibility standpoint as well as a dignity standpoint. In respite programs, folks are not obliged to participate in case management or work on housing plans, whereas that is a key component of service in all shelter programs. So because respites are lower barriers, perhaps there's less expectations of folks, whereas in shelters, there is also a prescriptive steps around getting assigned a case manager within the first 2 days that somebody's in a shelter. There are shelter standards around clients' rights and responsibilities. We have a quality assessment team that goes around to each and every shelter and comes up with a compliance list to make sure that that different providers are adhering to Toronto shelter standards. I believe that is also a public document if anybody wants to dig into that further. And finally, there are more robust programs and more in-depth engagement in general with folks staying in a shelter program. And there's typically also more common space to be able to do those things.
Great, thank you, Monica. This is a question that's come through both the Q&A, so I'm just going to ask this first, as well as coming in before the session, and it's for Division 14. So just Justin or Matthew or Jeffrey, whoever would like to answer, kind of a twofold question. How does the Toronto Police work with shelters like this one, and how will the police support local residents?
Good evening, it's Matthew now. Taking over the mic. Thank you for all for being here, and thank you for welcoming us with open arms. With regards to, 1 second. With regards to supporting the shelter, myself and Justin, who've been in the community response unit and the neighborhood community officer program for over 8 years now, combined on a bike. We work pretty much primarily with all the area shelters and respites, including the tents within the city. We've devoted much of our time to getting out there and being part of the community and getting to know the people that use these services as a whole. We do things a little differently. Our approach is a little bit different from the standard, but we are engaged with the community as well as our community stakeholders. For example, St. Felix, I've been working with them for over 12 years now, starting at 25 Augusta. And since the 69 Fraser site, we've been working with Enrique and his staff, who've welcomed us and provided us an opportunity to engage and speak with their clients, their guests, as well as the community safety team. And we've had numerous meetings with them. When it comes to the community aspect and dealing with and helping out the residents that are going to be having this shelter in their backyard, we recently just had a lengthy in-person meeting with one of your lead community advocates. So we completed what we call a CPTED assessment, or crime prevention through environmental design assessment of our house, just going over some of the crime prevention tips and tricks. We've also provided pamphlets and electronic copies as well that we can further hand out to the community. Just little tidbits of information that the general public may not know and might be helpful with the new address coming into their community.
Great, thank you. Having nothing else to add, I'm going to go to one of the hands up. Nancy, David, if you can help unmute. Nancy, you can unmute yourself to go ahead and ask your question. Go ahead and unmute, Nancy. There you go. Okay, hearing none. I'll come back to you, Nancy. I don't hear you speaking.
Can you hear me now?
Yep, we can hear you now. Go ahead.
Oh, great. Wonderful. First of all, thank you so much for all that you're doing to combat homelessness. But I agree with the previous commenter who pointed out that the drug issue in Toronto is really the elephant in the room, and it may seem like a separate issue, but it's not really. Another person who spoke referred to, just the outcry that's going on, and that they will continue to fight. I don't live in that community, but I am a resident of Toronto, and I see the issue all around me, people on the streets. And I'm grateful that something is being done to put a roof over people's heads. But to be very frank, the harm reduction model is not it's not addressing the problem. I understand the comment Monica was making that, you know, providing clean needles is not going to increase drug use, but how is the city of Toronto helping the drug addicted? And I think that's the underlying problem. That's the reason behind the community outcry, that it's because of the drug use that leads to criminal behavior, mischief, people living like animals, and that really needs to be addressed.
And answer your question is how the city.
My question is how, yeah, so, and Monica, you used the phrase that people will be helped to use safely. I respectfully, I express my disagreement with that. I think that's the problem. I think we have to do more to help people. And I think it will take tough love. You know, people addicted to drugs, the loving approach is an intervention. It has to be rehab or even prison. And that can save people from a life of misery, being addicted
Nancy,
to
do
drugs.
you have a clear question? Is it about how the city is helping people with drug addiction more clearly?
Yes.
I can try to respond, just to saying that the drug strategy is led by Toronto Public Health. The Toronto Public Health recently released a report on that strategy. It's really focused on a number of things, including harm reduction. The harm reduction is specifically focused on saving lives and getting people away from difficult situations. By putting an abstinence-based response in the shelter system, people may even end up stopping people from using, but instead make them go into hidden spaces, into alleyways where it's more dangerous for them and for the community to be using. Through, as Enrique mentioned, through harm reduction, we're able to engage with people and work and help people who want to engage with treatment get access to that service. We, in SSHA, do meet with Toronto Public Health, and I'm meeting with some colleagues on this Friday to discuss their drug strategy and how we can collaborate and support that work and work together on that effort. So it's complicated. It's a very difficult challenge as a city and as a society, but harm reduction is just one piece of a much bigger problem.
Thank you, Sahal. Monica.
Just to jump in, and certainly there is a role for the province in ensuring that people have a continuum of supports available to them. And there is a great shortage of beds for folks who are wanting to abstain, both with detox and rehabilitation. I don't want to, say anything specific about the province, except to say that there is the Ministry of Health has many opportunities to do more to help folks in different ways. I also did want to flag the Chapman Coroner's Inquest, which I believe was in 2018, where an unfortunate situation where a man named Brad Chapman overdosed fairly close to some shelter programs that at the time he was not able to access. So the coroner had done an investigation and completed an inquest in which the city was compelled to look at our practices in providing safer spaces for people who are actively using drugs to be able to have the same rights to accessing shelter as anybody else needing a roof. So I just wanted to flag that as well.
There is a question lower down around harm reduction, and maybe this will also provide some clarity, but harm reduction usually involves other professionals, nurses, psychologists, etc. Is that included in the harm reduction services that will be on site, Monica?
So we have partnerships throughout the shelter system with an organization called Inner City Health Associates, and that includes a roster of primary care physicians as well as psychiatrists. I am not sure in terms of access to nursing, but certainly that there is a great need for that in the shelter system. And so St. Felix, I believe, already has active partnerships with ICHA, is the short form that we call it. And we anticipate, or we know that these services will be available on site. In addition to that, I do want to look at what the synergies are with being so closely located to a community health center, how we can build on that partnership to make sure even more health resources are available to folks who are living at 629 Adelaide.
Thanks, Monica. Before I go on to other questions, I just want to reiterate in the way we refer to people. I heard it as a kind of a cry of how devastating it is to see people in these sorts of situations, but people are not living like animals. People are struggling and living in difficulty. So if we can just refer respectfully to people and with some compassion, even those that are suffering. So when we're posing our questions, if we can maintain that kind of spirit, that would be very helpful. I have a question that's come through the Q&A. Are there specific times that guests enter and leave the shelter, or are they able to access it 24 hours a day? St. Felix, or is that back over to you, Monica or Enrique?
So we actually used to have shelter programs that did close during the day, but that was it was recognized that we need 24-hour supports available to folks, that it wasn't helpful for guests of shelters or the surrounding community to do that. So we are committed to all of our shelters and respites being open 24/7. So that was my long-winded way of saying yes. It will be open 24/7. None of the guests will be asked to leave for any particular amounts of time during the day at all.
Perfect. Thank you, Monica. There's a comment. I want to express my support of the St. Felix shelter being relocated to 629 Adelaide. I live and work and am raising children in the immediate area. It's nice to get a note of support. I'm going to go to a hand up. Diane Chester. Diane. David, if you could help unmute, I don't seem to have that functionality. Go ahead, Diane.
Hi, thanks for taking my question. I have a ton of questions. Especially as a resident who lives 2 meters from the building, I have a lot
Sure,
of
Diane, if you could focus it on one question right now, and then we'll loop back to you if we have time. So if you can get one question out there clearly, and we'll get that answered.
I'll try to be clear. I live very close to the facility. I am 2 meters, probably 2 or 3 meters from the site. So I have some very personal concerns about how this site is going to be managed. I've been around to other sites, 21 Park Avenue, 25 Augusta, 69 Fraser. I've knocked on doors and talked to residents, and there is nothing positive to say about these facilities. They're all huge public safety issues for people. I've been into the Rabba across from 21 Park Avenue. All the windows are broken. It's very, very concerning, the public safety issues that we will expect to have, and we have been told will occur in our community. So how are you going to be a good neighbor to us? That's what I want to know. How will you ensure that we are not impacted by break-ins, broken windows, drug use, people in the laneway? How is this going to be resolved?
Thank you, Diane. It's a safety and security issue once again. Suhal, shall I hand it over to you first?
Yeah, I can start. I think safety and outreach and security is a complex issue, and we are trying to approach it from multiple different approaches. As previously mentioned, we are having community safety teams who will be engaging and doing outreach in the community, picking up needles, and going to hotspots as identified by the community through an upcoming community safety walk to really help understand and target areas where people are congregating or needles are being dropped to proactively address those issues or address those issues immediately after they occur. We will also be working with our clients to have a good neighbor policy so they understand their role within the space as well as in the community and how best to be a good neighbor. And I believe we can share a sample of that, of what that would look like with the community members who are interested and what that entails. We will also be, as I previously mentioned, working collaboratively with many other divisions or organizations such as Toronto Public Health, the Toronto Community Crisis Teams, Toronto Public Health as well, to really create a more community-wide safety plan to see where SSHA can help in those existing safety networks and safety strategies in the neighborhood and really build on them to ensure that there are safe approaches to everything that's happening in the community. I think homelessness is complex. Now, there are people who do have more challenging issues, but there's also many people who don't, and we want to make sure we're not overpolicing everyone, but we also be understanding of the general needs of safety in the community. So we will be trying to go through as many different approaches as possible, leveraging the learnings we had from other sites that we have opened in the past.
Great, thank you, Sahal. Monica, anything to add? No? Nope.
I think one other takeaway that we've got, particularly with being near to a school, is we're going to be engaging with other shelter operators who are in close vicinity to shelters. I've already been in conversations with the CEO of the Good Shepherd Ministries about what has worked and what hasn't. And certainly we don't want to reinvent the wheel. This isn't uncommon, as Suhal mentioned earlier, and we want to learn from others' experience and bring that to this community.
And I'm just going to ask, because I know this question has been a little bit addressed already by Toronto Police Services, but since we have you on the line, do you have anything to add, whether it's Matthew or Jeffrey or Justin? Just jump in. Anything to add to this concern from Toronto Police Services?
Yeah, it's Jeff Zaman. I'm the sergeant that's in charge of the neighborhood program. And I just want to tell the community that we have 4 officers that are dedicated to the area of Liberty Village, which would include the new place at St. Felix. And the officers that I have, 4 of them, they're probably our best ones that we have in the division that do the neighborhood program. And they do a great job working with the community, and we'll try our best to help out as best we can with you to try and work through this. But that's all we can offer to you.
Great, thank you, Jeffrey. I'm going to ask one more question. We're almost at time before we wrap up. It should be a quick one to my colleague Maria that's come in the Q&A. When is BMG going to hold the community safety walk and produce a separate report, as has been done in past for shelters? This report needs to proceed and inform the final engagement process and report. Maria?
Thank you for the question. We're looking at putting together the community walk, probably, I'm going to say January or February. We've been told by some of the stakeholders that need to participate. December is the no-fly zone in terms of activity, just given that their workload. So we'll be looking at doing that early in the new year and putting together a report about what we found on that walk, what the recommendations are, and how we're going to follow up on that. And then that report will also go to the Community Liaison Committee, who will look at that and work collaboratively to address any issues that are identified during that walk.
Perfect. Thank you, Maria. For those with your hands still up, I would ask that you pose your questions in the Q&A. Maria and David will be capturing all the questions that are in the Q&A. Of course, we couldn't get through them. There were about 89 questions posed. So those will be reflected in the summary notes and grouped, and where responses can be gotten, the final report that will pop up on the website will include those. Okay, so David, if you can pop up the slide deck to close off the session. Just the second to last slide. I want to thank everyone for their attention, and all the participants and all the panelists. There's a full slate of questions, and I'm sorry we couldn't get through them all. We're 2 minutes before 8 o'clock, and I like to try and end these on time. Okay, so just once again, the project website for 629 Adelaide, the summary of this meeting will be posted on that website. A recording of this event will be posted on the city's YouTube channel and shared also on the project website. To engage further, please use the Gmail account 629 Adelaide Street West at gmail.com. For more information and program updates, go to www.toronto.ca/629 Adelaide Street West. for questions around city services to support those experiencing homelessness, please email ssha.homeless@toronto.ca. Okay. So I'd like to check in with our panelists to see if anyone has any closing remarks. Perhaps Gord, can I hand that over to you?
Yes, thanks so much, Violetta, and thanks to all the panelists who are contributing to some of the answers, but most important, thanks to everyone who joined us this evening. You know, through each of these opportunities and the questions that you ask helps us refine and report back to the broader community, because if you're asking a question, likely other folks have those same questions as well. So information will continue to be available on the website, and as I noted before, this is not the end of our work together. This is not the end of our conversations. You know, we are here to continue working with you with the goal of opening this site to help as many vulnerable people in the city as we can, and ensuring that it's a community asset in your neighborhood, and something that you know, you can look to as an asset to support people, and then we'll integrate well. Again, thank you so much, and we'll continue our work together. Have a great evening, and we'll talk very soon. Take care.
Thank you. Thanks, Gord. Thanks, everyone. Have a good night.
Bye now.
Bye.